When we had the chance to bring Spider-Man into the MCU with Homecoming, it was really exploring two things that had never been explored before in the Spidey movies. One was making him much younger, that he's in his early years of high school and dealing with what it's like to be that young and to have these powers, and to really relish the high school setting. And the other one was that it's set within the broader Marvel universe and that there are other heroes there. So for the first few films, it was always, how do we do things that have never been done before? So it did not occur to us to do a new Goblin story or to do an Oscorp story or to do Doc Ock or anyone that had been done before, which is why Vulture and Mysterio were really the key characters. And even as we were doing that, and I've been saying for years, long before anybody asked me what I thought, that you can't get better than Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. That stepping into those shoes would be very, very difficult. And it wouldn't be fun to find a way, if you were ever going to bring Doc Ock back, that it would have to be Alfred Molina. And in early development on this third Homecoming movie, we realized that thanks to the MCU, there's a way to do that. One of the reasons we wanted him to be as young as possible is so that we could explore the high school years. And very much like the Harry Potter franchise did, each book is a year in school. So initial ideas were, yes, we have sophomore year and junior year and senior year. And we've stuck to that sort of. He's had amazing adventures in between those years. Far From Home ended up being sort of over a summer of that. And No Way Home very much is his senior year. And just as his senior year is starting, when he's figuring out what he wants to do with his life and where he and MJ and Ned want to go off to college together, of course, coincides exactly when Mysterio outs his identity. And the worst possible thing happens to Peter Parker, that his identity is revealed. He's being framed for all the terrible things that happen in Far From Home. And all he really wants to do is start his senior year and have a normal kid experience. And that push and pull between being a hero and being a regular kid. When I met with Amy Pascal and first approached her about joining forces to do a Spider-Man movie together and set them in the MCU, and when we got her blessing and the blessing of Sony, and Tom Rothman came on board and believed in it, there was a lot of pressure, right? There's one thing getting people to say yes. It's another thing now delivering on what the heck you were talking about. And the first step on that is casting and is saying, okay, let's find the youngest Peter Parker who we can grow with and who can do scenes with these other Marvel heroes for the first time. And we knew that Tony Stark was going to be a big part of that. And Civil War was already shooting at the time, and we weren't sure we were going to be able to cast Peter Parker and include him in the initial round of photography on Civil War. But we wanted to make every effort to do that. So yes, we flew, I think, about five actors in and had them do readings with Robert Downey Jr., and it was his graciousness, and he's always so gracious, particularly with other actors, with his time. And that, we narrowed it down there with that reading, then we did one more with Chris Evans. And it became very apparent that Tom Holland was not just an amazing Peter Parker, but he incredibly was an amazing, no pun intended, Spider-Man, because he had both the abilities of a great actor and the abilities of a great gymnast and stunt performer, which was just an added bonus, which continues to blow us away and surprise us. I remember he did a giant flip right in front of Evans during that reading and threw Evans off. He couldn't believe what he just saw in front of him. And as I've said, that dynamic between a very young Tom Holland interacting with Robert Downey Jr. for the first time was exactly the dynamic we wanted between a young Peter Parker interacting with Tony Stark for the first time. And seeing our Peter grow and grow out of that, the shadow of Iron Man, as we saw him start to do in Far From Home, in which he completely does now in No Way Home, and really become his own hero.
There's so many great actors that have been in these movies, and to be able to bring them all together and to find a way to finish their storylines, maybe in a different way. And they're all sort of the victims of accidents. Like, they're all the victims of technological mistakes. You know, some hubristic, some purely accidental. Jamie Foxx just falls into a tank of electric eels. Like, It's just an accident. But to use that as an entry point to telling a story about the idea of second chances, I love the idea of putting a bunch of rogue villains together and just watching them meet each other and hang out and talk. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be an action scene every time. Like, I love the idea of Sandman and Electro talking about how they got the way they were. Like, it's just, I've never really seen that.
You look over and you see Willem Dafoe and Alfred and all these guys, you just go like, I mean, these guys are prolific actors in the first place. And we talked about this earlier. It's like, I think what was done great by Marvel was that they have guys that are incredibly provocative as just actors.
What I thought was so wonderful about the first film, the first time, was that they gave Doc Ock this wonderful redemptive moment, you know, and like all great villains, like a lot of villains in the Marvel universe, he's become a villain kind of reluctantly, or almost by accident. And Kurt Connors, it happens to, there's all sorts of, something happens and everything, and their world changes. So I knew that when John described what's going to be Doc Ock's first appearance in this film, that he just knows it's going to be like a moment of like, it's going to be a fantastic. So I wanted to kind of make sure that I was in the right place, in terms of the performance and everything. So it was useful to go back and look at the first film, but at the same time, it's a different director, it's a different movie, there's a freshness to it. So I didn't want to just kind of come back and replicate what we'd done before. It was important to me to arrive as if this was the first time. There's a mutual respect there, and we're all kind of, we know each other's work, and we've all been around for a while, and there is a sense of camaraderie that comes from a shared experience in terms of, we've all done one of these before. In Willem's case, I think it's been more than one. So there's a sense of, like we've kind of, we've arrived at a place where we can enjoy this without being too precious about it. We can enjoy it for all the marvelous things that it's giving us, but also for all the absurdities of it. Three grown men in kind of these costumes, kind of, sort of giving as much energy to it as we would if we were playing Shakespeare or something else. It's a wonderful place to be. Some actors like Jamie, who is a master at improv. I mean, his brain just works so fast, and Tom as well. Because Tom's got the experience of playing the character so many times, he just knows the right tone. There's a couple of factors that go into that, I think. One is that he's, as you say, very enthusiastic. He loves this genre. He loves this world. He treats it with respect. He's a fan. But also, he loves bringing out the humor. He wants the audience to find it not just dramatic and exciting, but he also wants them to find it as delicious as he does. He wants them to enjoy the moment. He's encouraging us to improvise and to kind of throw in. He always, when he's got the takes that he wants, he'll always say, "Okay, one more just for you. Do what you want to do."